Hello and welcome to Chakra News. Donald Trump has turned the world upside down, it would seem. But we're also looking at this very interesting observation by an Austrian economist about a pro-Khalistani map that he's posted recently on X. And he's calling for the breaking up of India. And he's saying something, a concept that he calls ex-India, whatever that means. So I want to turn to Chitra Subramaniam, who now joins us on Chakra News from Switzerland. Chitra is, of course, award-winning journalist, a best-selling author, and policy analyst, and everyone in India knows her for her spectacular expose on the Bofors saga, where she unveiled political bribery, and that was one of India's most sensational news stories. Chitra, welcome to Chakra News.
Thanks, Sandeepan, and thank you for that very generous introduction. And if I may add, covering Bofors also gave me a peek into how diplomacy works, and then subsequently I covered GATT and WTO. So you could see there's a pattern. There's a pattern to working the good, the bad, and the ugly. And at the moment, we are going through the second and third part.
The bad and the ugly, but Chitra, tell us who this guy is. This Gunther Fehlinger. He's an Austrian economist. Why would he come out with something as bizarre as this? I mean, we thought Trump was unpredictable and bizarre, but you have this Austrian economist coming out of the woodwork with these kind of comments. What do you make of it?
What I make of it, Sandeepan, is that as bizarre and ridiculous as it may sound, we have to keep an eye. For the simple reason that, let me give an example, that I used to cover the human rights in Geneva at the UN. And there would be, a lot of people who would then say they are NGOs. But I coined a term called gongos. These are government NGOs, gongo as in government NGOs. Because many of them...
Gongo, but government funded.
Government funded NGOs. Because a good NGO would be able to declare their funding. I mean, I worked with many of them at the WHO, and their funding is very transparent, which is what is required by law. That is, these government people in Geneva, let's not forget that Geneva, Brussels are all where bureaucrats and politicians come together, and now you have the EU. So there are these gongos who would show up heavily funded to be able to live in Geneva, where, it's a very expensive place. And they would all pretend to be independent. The problem, Sandeep, is that, they, by virtue of their status, they have access to the high table. They can come into the rooms. They can meet diplomats. They can produce documents. And if this gentleman is producing a map of India and then, tweeting things like, let's destroy India and all that, I just want to alert you to the fact that, the late US politician Madeleine Albright had already called for the Balkanization of India during the Kashmir talks in Geneva. Now, why am I telling you all this? We've got to be careful as to what the conversation is. And the European Union is at the moment silent or looks less irritant to us compared to Trump. But it's also because they don't have the economic power that, Trump has. But let's not forget that they're also the original colonizers. So, one has to have, and, we do need to up our presence in Brussels. We need to up our presence in Geneva. And our embassies, as you know, they need help. So that's why I'm telling you.
Understaffed, Chitra, in Europe?
Yes. Because let's say they have to attend so many meetings, so many bilaterals. They don't have the time to even find out what's going on. I mean, in Geneva, which is the European headquarters of the UN, just the very meetings that they have to attend, they are short-staffed. Our embassies are short-staffed, and our enemies are not short-staffed because they are hugely funded. And the question to ask is, who is funding them? And, let's not go into foreign hand. These are very legitimate funders. So legitimately, these people can come and question.
But Chitra, give us an idea if this is a result of the Russia-Ukraine war. It's Europe's most savage war since the Second World War. In fact, it's been 80 years since the Second World War. Are statements like this coming out of countries that we have no problems with, like Austria, for instance? Is that a symptom of the larger divisions that we are seeing in Europe? Like, either you're with us or you're against us. That kind of language. And this is a symptom of that.
No, it's a very good question, Sandeepan, because we are not responsible for the war. But then when your prime minister speaks to, let's say, Volodymyr Zelensky and all that, then you give an impression that you can do something. You see, so it's feeding into all kinds of, I would say, narratives. So what I hate. So whether or not a country is pro you or against you, they're voting. They're going quite right wing. If you look at Poland and Austria and all that. I don't think we should look at friends or not friends. We should look at interests, because foreign policy and diplomacy is all about interests. And what they don't like, when I mean by they, I mean people who are not enemies, who are enemies of India, and I speak as a patriot, is that they don't like India emerging as a independent power. I can see it in trade, and I'll speak to that when we speak about the trade part. See, nobody likes the emergence of India. Nobody. So they'll keep telling you global south, global south. That's a wrong phrase to use. The moment you say south, then it's considered less. It's something to look down to. So we are emerging as a major power. We may not be economically or militarily as strong, but we'll get there. Sooner or later we are developing. So, calling us a failed economy is just being ridiculous. So all this to say that, see, the very fact that all these people are coming up and, the Austrian government may not be directly involved. I don't think it is. But it's happening in their capital. But what can they do? They can't do anything. It's a democracy. Whereas it's up to us. I saw that this NGO was banned in India. How does that help? That will only make this person look more powerful by saying, oh, I've been banned by India and they won't give me a visa. So that will start another.
Take a hero out of him. That's and point of raising this, Chitra, was to understand that if this is if he's literally the canary in the cage, and to understand if there is something else behind this, and you've so succinctly pointed out to the fact that there could be something in the pipeline that we should be worried about. But tell us if there's been a kind of a global sentiment against India as well. Because of this Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, what's your sense, viewing it from Switzerland? Trump has been talking about it, but, he's trying to get us to cut down on our purchases of Russian oil, and he's, called us all kinds of names.
Calling it secondary tariffs. I mean, sure. To come back to your question, you see that a lot in the United States, but not so much in Europe. Because you see, I mean, I believe Europe is a civilized place, and it's certainly more civilized than the United States. It's culturally so, for cultural reasons. It's a very old, for all the reasons that we call it an old continent. There's also the Roman Empire. There's education. There's a lot of stuff here. There is an anti-India sentiment in the US, jobs and whipping up. But I also think that we are inviting it, by celebrating our festival on the streets. So, I don't think we should do that, because anything to do with religion is a private matter, right? You can do your Ganesh Puja or all that at home. Don't go out on the streets. Like I can see them in the UK. There is a lot of sentiment against immigrants and Indians and all in the UK. Because of all the points I made, that they're getting into all kinds of public support, or you shouldn't do that. I mean, you're a guest in the country, and you should be thankful of you should be thankful of the cordiality with which you've been received, and don't provoke. What is the need to provoke?
I mean, are you saying that Indians are provoking people in the UK or in Europe?
There have been comments about more in the US now. I think they're provoking, because I think they are being provoked by Mr. Trump.
Oh, right. And Trump is using Indians as an excuse for whatever
Whatever,
economic.
today it's Russian oil, tomorrow it could be jobs. I mean, the
Right,
entire Silicon Valley, if the Indians left, the Silicon Valley would collapse. Let's be very
right,
honest about it. And it's not just body shopping. He says body shopping, body shopping. No, it's not.
mm,
We are, was it last week? Yeah, last week, it was Microsoft and all these companies, Meta, Apple, sorry, not Apple, the whole lot came. There was data that they were hiring 30,000 jobs in India. So
right,
it's a two-way street. It's not, we're going up the food chain. In the beginning, it may have been body shopping, say 30, 25 years ago, but today it's not body shopping. And where will you find so many engineers, good quality,
yes,
speaking English, and they can hit the job running. They don't have any need to train and all that. So India's quality also as a nation is up
yes,
in that way. So we should not get into anything provocative or, I have read about issues in Ireland.
right,
Apparently Indians are having to face racism in Ireland, but I think it's in the Anglo-Saxon curve, more
right,
than the European curve. There's quite a big difference between the Anglo-Saxons, the
right.
continent, and the Europeans. So yeah.
Right. So, these are very interesting points that you've made. And I'm actually thinking that this rising tide of right-wing politics in Europe and in the UK as well, which is basically you're looking at a certain anger against immigrants. And one would have thought that they were only immigrants from, say, West Asia or something. But are you suggesting that this applies, this kind of anger is directed against all immigrants, irrespective of which country they come from?
But the type of person whose anger is directed against an immigrant doesn't know where you're from, no?
Right,
And they can't tell your nationality. I know in Canada it's pretty bad.
right,
But I see West Asia or South Asia, we look alike, no?
right,
So, I mean, I'm saying that there is a lot of these anger against West Asians or who celebrate their religion very openly on the street. And I don't think that religion is something that should be, it's not a street issue. You should do it in
right.
the privacy and the beauty and the grace of your home, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
What do you tell your friends? I'm sure you have a very large friend circle in
Yes.
Europe.
Yes.
Your friends who are from India, I mean, how do
Yeah.
you tell them
Well,
this?
dealing with my children, I mean, it's a very political house. I have 5 or 6 nationalities at home. I don't think I don't say that Indians are not like that, because we are. I mean, there is in India there is a growth of right-wing politics, and my prime minister and all. But it's see, I don't like to fight or discuss India outside. I don't defend India outside. I mean, I don't have friends, let's say, I don't invite dark friends. I have friends who have light around them, and we have good discussions. And we talk about history, we talk about the Roman Empire, and how certain empires fell. And so we don't talk about, of course, now the big conversation is President Trump, because he's attacking Europeans. I mean, in Switzerland, for example, they were expecting 10% tariffs, but he came up with 40%, you know,
Right.
without realizing that the cost will be transferred to his own people. He's not going to be at the receiving end of again, he went and plays golf on the weekend. So the issue of tariffs is more important in my conversations with friends than because these tariffs are completely they've never happened, so
Yes, it's unprecedented in terms of world politics. You've never seen an American president behave this way. But India and the US have a global strategic partnership. What both countries, through bipartisan support, have built up over the last 25 years. And Trump seems to have, as I say, driven a flaming truck into that edifice. How serious is the damage, do you think, that Trump has caused? Is it going to completely fray the relationship, rupture it, or is it something that can be rebuilt after he leaves?
Good question. Sandeep, I don't think that it's damaged forever or anything, because fundamentally we are democracies.
Yes.
Like fundamentally we can't do anything with China, but fundamentally we are democracies, and I think it's a difficult period. And I think Americans recognize it. I mean, I read some statements from the USTR, US Trade. I mean, I just want to say that I've also covered WTO and GATT from the beginning here, 10 years of trade policy and all that. I don't think that it's a very rough period. And if I were to, it's like a ship in the ocean, it's really going through rough seas. But
Right.
we are both in the ocean, and there will be calmer days. But what is difficult is the language and the nonsense that is being hurled at us. So but I doff my hat to diplomats who have to deal with this, to be called all kinds of names. And, they've gone out of their way, in the market access in agriculture, market access in textiles. I'm very one buying almonds from California, damn it. I mean, during one point when I used to write about trade, we gave them a concession that when they tried to put this US, the super and special punishment on us, if you wish, super special 301 to beat us.
Right.
So we give them a guarantee that we would buy Californian almonds from them. We're not trade. I mean, it's not a priority. We need medical equipment, so we need food. But to make the point that, trade goes this way and that, what Trump has done, I mean, okay, secondary tariffs can go up to 100%. What is he talking about? Trade doesn't recognize, a good trading partner recognizes that you can have non-tariff barriers like environment, or you can have other tariff barriers. But okay, this secondary is that, we are buying Russian oil. But that's like a sanction. He's sanctioning India. Right. He's sanctioning our foreign policy. And that to me is unacceptable as an Indian. And I have enough experience to know that the fundamental relationship will not be spoiled. No, they won't. It won't be. And I genuinely believe that our work will be in that direction. And there will always be, all these people who are trying to spoil it. But the fundamental relationship, see, trust also, trust has to be built over time. And yes. The fact that Trump is trying to, in a way, the fact that Trump is trying to destroy that trust, there are many Americans who are also troubled by what he's doing, because India is not India is not China, India is not Russia. And to tell us you can't buy oil from there, you can't buy oil from here, when you yourself are buying oil from, the amount of business that Europe and America are doing with Russia, yes. And insulting Putin. How is that?
Yeah, now look that's one point that the Indian MEA has made. Dr. Jaishankar has made that point very repeatedly, that the fact that how Europe continues to buy oil from the Russian Federation. The United States last year bought something like $4 billion worth of commodities, uranium, all of that from the Russian Federation. So how do you explain that? Why is only India being targeted and not even China, for instance? What do you make?
I feel that we are rising as a global power, definitely, and we are cutting our own path. Right. We are not going this way or that. I think that, for example, if I can just take a line back, I think that Mr. Trump is going to look at slicing his part of the world with him. He's going to take the Panama Canal, Cuba, and now he's fighting with Venezuela. So He'll take that part. China is going to swallow Taiwan, and they'll do that part. Russia is doing the middle part. So I think the P3 have some kind of an arrangement in their heads that they're going to. Right. Now we are with everyone. No, we have issues with China. I mean, if I were to worry, I would be more worried about China than the US. Actually, the question that you asked, I mean, China, I don't trust, period. I don't trust China, and no one should trust China. So I'm more worried. Beg your pardon? Yeah, so China is on a completely different level. So I don't trust China. But to make the point that, I'm not worried, but I just hope that the damage that is being done now can be recovered. And also another point I wanted to make, and this is important, Sandeep, is that whenever India comes up in a sector, humko tarif laga dete, So you don't want competition. You're saying that survives on competition. But then when we become competitive, you slap us with tariffs just because we're not as powerful as you. Let's take textiles. Textiles has been under the multi-fiber agreement for years. It's discriminatory because this was used to feed the Lancashire mills. And, where we don't have, we need I think our government should listen to our traders more or have open forums with them because the Americans listen to their farmers and, market access. So we should be speaking to our farmers more, the real farmers, not the gongos and, the NGOs.
There are gongos in India as well, Chitra.
Of course we do. All governments have them, Yes. See, it's the job of governments to do that. But it's the job of journalists to question, right? See, all governments can do that. So, yeah.
But how has Europe reacted to Trump, Chitra? Post 1945, 80 years you've had peace and tranquility, and the US European Union relationship was a given. But now you see a lot of pressure on this relationship. You think Europe is now going to kind of move out on its own, start paying more for defense, for instance? Give us a sense, and also tell us how the arms trade is viewing this, the European arms trade into which you had made very deep inroads while researching your articles for the Indian Express and the Hindu, and of course your latest book on Bofor's Gate. What is the arms trade talking about?
So let's answer the first question. Arms trade is very happy because it's bonanza time for them. I mean, even Germany is rearming, Europe is rearming. Can you imagine? All these countries that were sort of saying peace, peace, peace. Sweden has just bought itself some whole lot of stuff. Arms traders are very happy. And if you remember, I've written in the book that this arms dealer told me that, politicians are arms dealers in three-piece suits. We can see it.
Right.
Who is giving arms to Ukraine? And so for them, it's bonanza time. And, Europe loves its war. They don't want the war to end. And I think all this bit about peace and all, I find it very hypocritical. Coming back to how is Europe doing? Europe is doing badly, and this after the war, I mean, they had these welfare state, in one generation, they went from want to leisure activities. They worked hard. There's a lot of hard work that went into it. But there was no forward thinking, realizing that how vulnerable they were during the war, and how they had been bombed out of their senses and all that. So there was no plan B, as should this happen. And then the United States was funding NATO a lot. And, there was no European army. There will not be a European army because they've never had a foreign policy. But now politicians are talking about European army, but then the Europeans fight with each other. There's no unity. It's a union of countries. There's a lot of India, So it's a union of countries, and there's an extreme push towards the right. Mr. Macron is sort of doing his own thing. The Germans are doing their own thing. The southern countries are coming up, like Spain is doing well, Portugal is doing well. But together, they're not strong. So they have to make up their mind. Are they going to be colonized by the US or colonized by China? Now, China is very powerful here. China has entered the European Union's dialogues through, they have invested in ports, they have invested in trade. Switzerland is heavily, it's heavily in China's grip because of trade. So China is playing a very quiet game. Quietly, they're all over the place. So the Europeans now are stuck, They're no sums as if they don't know what to do. So, and from this moralizing, telling what India should do and this, that, and the other, they realize that we've actually played a good game. I feel as an Indian, I feel very proud. I may have issues domestically, but I feel living outside, I feel, I don't want to say, ha, we told you. But definitely we are doing, we don't need you to tell us what we should do. I think that's what is getting all of them. That's what is getting the Europeans are now, I saw, was it yesterday that Madame von der Leyen, she had a call with Prime Minister Modi. So now you listen to us. But then we should also be we should play our hand very well, Sandeep. Don't forget, we are the world's largest market. There are more
Right.
people in India who vote than there are Americans and Europeans. So we have to play the power of our market. Make it India for Indians. You see, not just come and sell us some, let's not buy Chinese diyas or Chinese this or Chinese that. Make in India for Indians. And you
Make in
help,
India.
beg your pardon? Yeah, make in India for Indians, let's make things for Indians.
Right.
Let's get the best technology to make in India for Indians. And I'm not talking about IT and all that. I'm talking about the manufacturing sector.
Right.
So that has to get a fillip.
Right. So, but Chitra, you're talking about the Chinese and, the fact that they've been playing a very quiet game. But, if you saw that parade on the 3rd
Oh my
of
God, it was power, no? How much power it was.
It was all about China's moment in the sun and that they finally arrived. What do you make of this? And, what has been the sentiment in the West, especially in Europe, regarding the parade?
Envy and also a sense of foolishness, because they're the ones who went for cheap Chinese labor, no? I mean, they were the ones who went for cheap Chinese labor and realized during COVID that they couldn't even manufacture a needle. And I know this because...
So the dependence on China,
over-dependence on China on every sector, whether it be medical equipment, whether it be pharmaceutical, whether it be cars, whether it would be anything, fishing. So, this power has come from where? So then there were editorials in, I read French and Italian, saying, we have made these demons. In fact, I tweeted out that, saying that this is the power that Europe has given them, without, how would they get so much power? And now you deal with it. And then there was this image of Putin, Mr. Putin and Mr. G standing on the thing. What a powerful image it was. That's why I think Trump must feel very threatened. But then it occurred to me that he's probably going to just focus on his area. He's going to go and threaten Cuba or Venezuela. I think they blow up something. And I don't think he'll be... I don't think, that meeting in Alaska, I mean, you could say where the power was. It was Trump. I mean, it was not with Trump. It was
right.
Putin.
It was...
And someone treated that the American, some people came out looking ashen. You have to have guts to be sitting in front of Putin and Lavrov. These are not your, these are not your normal politicians. They're very powerful people.
That's
I mean, I would be quite...
and they've been around for a very long time. But yeah, they've been around for a very long time. And, but in conclusion, Chitra, I want to ask you about when you just said that you see a future where the world is going to be carved up into 3 spheres of influence, the Russian sphere, the Chinese sphere, and of course, the American sphere. Where does that leave the Quad? The Quad was something, if you remember, the quadrilateral of democracies. You have a big meeting in New Delhi that's set to take place in a few weeks from now. You think Trump is, lost complete interest in the Quad and he's left us high and dry with that?
Trump will leave very, very high and dry. Okay, Trump is all about Trump. Trump destroyed WTO in his first term. Trump destroyed the UN. Trump has no respect for organizations. Quad yes, Quad no. Yes, they'll come and there will be a meeting and there will be a statement and all that. Does the Quad have power? And where is the power today? And India must. I'm sure they have. Our diplomats have made enough. Our diplomats know that there's a power axis, and then the Europeans are doing this axis of the something they have come up with. No, something in Europe they're talking about the Ukraine, the axis of the what concerned or something. I think it's axis of the confused, because they don't know. No, they don't know what they are doing, so they're trying to topo that on us. So if I were India,
us to join that axis.
Pardon?
They're trying to get us to join that axis you're suggesting.
Yeah, I mean, why should we? I mean, if you ask me, why should we? I mean, we are talking to Ukraine, we're talking to Russia. They don't know what to do. We'll do our own thing, which is why I think that this is a moment where, as an Indian, I feel good. Whether this is going to last for long, I genuinely have faith in my system. I have faith in my democracy. I have faith in my media. and I'm a person of faith. So
Right.
I hope I answer your questions.
I think those are reassuring words from you, Chitra, and someone who's looked at foreign policy, politics, governance for more than 4 decades. I think you've seen it all, and in conclusion, Chitra, if you can give us something of what lies ahead, what would be your advice, your suggestion to whoever's watching it? How do you handle this so-called VUCA world? This volatile and confused kind of geopolitics that we are living in.
See, advice I don't know, but I would share where I think where I think I can. I think that do your work, keep the focus, don't get into other people's politics and games. You keep the focus, think for India, for Indians, with Indians, and then you'll be okay.
Right. And keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm and carry on. Remember, these are just tumultuous times. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. On that note, Chitra Subramaniam, thank you very much for joining us. It's so good to speak to you and to hear your assessment of the very troubled geopolitics that we're facing here. It's literally like the T20 of geopolitics, if I can call it that.
Thank you.
But thank you very much for giving us an insight into what to expect and what to do about all of this. And for those of you watching this, please do grab a copy of Chitra Subramaniam's latest book. It's out. It's called Bofors Gate. There it is. It's one of the finest accounts of one of the greatest pieces of investigative reporting done by any Indian journalist, the Bofors saga of 1987. You can read it in Chitra's new book that's out. It's there. It's been published by Juggernaut. You can get your copy, download it on Kindle, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. But thank you very much, Chitra, once again, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Sandeep, and thank you for having me on this occasion of Onam. May everybody have a bountiful, happy, lovely Onam.